It's lit, guys. Happy Monday. Welcome to the call again. Excited to be with you guys. And last week we talked about can you see it? And tonight I was thinking, Sid had asked me, she's like, what you gonna talk about tonight? I'm like, bro, I really don't even know yet. And then it just hit me. It's one thing to know that you can see it, you still can see it, but it's another thing to kind of know what viewpoint are you seeing it from? Like, how are you seeing it? Yes, I may see it, but how do I see it? Because here's the thing, guys, perspective is so important. The first note I want you to write down, if you're tracking with me tonight, is that perspective drives performance. Perspective drives performance. And what I want to ask you is, why do you think the way that you do? Why do you have the perspective that you have? Like, ask yourself that question. Why do I think the way that I think about this business? Why do I think the way that I think about success? Like, how did my perception, how did my perspective get to the way that it's gotten to? Because at the end of the day, how you view what you do will always determine how you do what you do. So if you don't have the right perspective, you won't have the right performance. You won't have the right mentality, because your perspective, your perception is off. So think about that. Why do I think the way that I think? Why do I have this perspective that I have? And what I want you guys to understand is, when it comes down to perspective, when it comes down to perception, what really creates that, or the most important thing to that, will be based on what are you looking at? What are you looking at? And then what viewpoint are you looking at it from? Because two people could be looking at the exact same situation, but they have two completely different perspectives of it. Even though they're looking at the same thing, you can have two people looking at the exact same back office. You can have two people looking at the exact same trade setup. You can have two people looking at the exact same altercation, but because of where they may be standing at, because where they may be looking at it from, or because of their previous experiences, the previous environment that they've been in, the previous information that they've heard, and the previous people that they've been around, all of that could shape the way that they think. That could shape the way they look at the things that they look at. So you got to understand, your perspective is everything. Your perspective is what's going to drive you, and every single blessing is going to be found in you having the right perspective about your situation. Every blessing is going to be found in you having the right perspective about your situation. So what you really got to ask yourself is, why do I think this way? Why do I have this perspective that I have? What have I been looking at? What am I looking at right now? Who have I been around? What type of people have I been hanging around? And the type of people that you want to hang around and put yourself around are people that add a valuable insight to your perspective. Those are the type of people you can hang around. What type of environments do I want to be in? I want to be around environments that add valuable insight to my perspective. What type of information do I want to listen to? What type of information do I want to read and study? Information that adds valuable insight to my perspective. What type of experiences do I want to have? Experiences that add valuable insight to my perspective. Because if I can get my perspective to see things the way that super successful people see things, if I can get my perspective to see things the way that a chairman or a seven-figure trader would see things, if I can get my perspective to see something the way in which God may see something, then I have a better chance of winning. I have a better chance of winning, because if you don't see better, you don't do better. So what we got to do is look at life from a different lens, look at situations from a different viewpoint, a different vantage point, because when we do that, what we do will be changed. The questions that we ask will be changed. The emotions that we feel will be changed because of our perspective. Again, you can have two people looking at the exact same thing, going through the exact same thing, going through the exact same situation, but because the perspective is a little bit different, the situation has a different outcome. So let's actually look up what perspective means. Perspective, a particular attitude towards or way of regarding something, a point of view, a particular attitude towards a way of regarding something, or a point of view, right? So perspective, because it has something to do with a particular attitude, that lets me know that it has something to do with a way of thinking. See, guys, success is all here. The battle is all here. And if we can get our perspective, we can shape our perspective to see things in the way that we need to see things, the way that we process things will be a lot different. Because your perspective will always lead to how you process the situation. Here's what you got to understand. Every feeling, right, is traceable to a thought. Every feeling is traceable to a thought, whether it be a good feeling or a bad feeling. So you find somebody that feels good about what they do. You find somebody that's excited and energetic about what they do. It's because they have the proper perspective about what they do. And because their perspective is right, their processing is right. The way that they internalize information is right. But my mind can only process what I give it from the perception that I give it to my mind from. So if I see something that's negative, right, I see something that from X perspective, and my mind processes that, my mind automatically creates a scenario, a story is automatically created in my mind about what I saw, right? So I have to control, right, the way in which I'm seeing things, the viewpoint from which I'm seeing things, because if I see it from a negative point of view, my mind will process that negative point of view, and the story gets created in my mind about what can happen after I saw what I just saw, or I experienced what I just experienced. There's always a storyteller in your mind, and what you got to understand is, who is the storyteller? Who's telling me this story? Is it the good in me, the God in me, or is it the enemy on the inside of me where I'm hearing this story from, that's playing this story, whether it be a good story, we know where that comes from, and also the bad story. So how we combat that is by, number one, thinking the highest thought. See, that's how you change your perspective. You have to think the highest thought about every person that you're dealing with and every situation that you're going through. You have to think the highest thought possible. Because if I don't think the highest thought about my situation, I'm going to process it from the perspective in which I saw it. If the perspective wasn't right, then the processing is not going to be right. And if the processing of that information isn't right, then the performance, the activity, it won't be right. So what we got to do is think the highest thought possible about our situation, no matter what it is, no matter how bad it is. We have to think the highest thought possible. Somebody does something wrong to you, think the highest thought. Something happens in your business, guess what you do? You think the highest thought. Somebody leaves your business, guess what you do? You think the highest thought. You blow an account, guess what you do? You think the highest thought. Millie Mills, she blew 15 HFX accounts before she finally started making money. 15, this is what she told us on Saturday. I've blown 15 HFX accounts to get this skill to a point where I can start doing it. 15. But some people, they get upset about blowing 1, 2. Oh, I just blew my 4th account. Bro, you have to see it from the way that Millie Mills sees it. She's blown 15 to get to where she's at. 15. So that's what we got to do. Our perception, again, is going to be based on, number one, what we're looking at, what angle we're looking at it from, but then the perspective, the perception is built upon the foundation of the environment, the people that we've been around, right? The information that we've been receiving and the experiences that we've been having. And if I don't have the right perspective on the situation, right, then my processing of that thought is going to be negative. It won't be how it needs to be. And then I can't perform in the way at which I need to perform. Why? Because perspective always drives my performance. And perspective drives my performance, number one, from the processing of the thought that I'm having. Because remember, every single feeling, no matter what feeling, good or bad, is always traceable to a thought. It's always traceable to a thought. Somebody does something wrong to you, right? You have this feeling of anger. You have this feeling of, fluster. You have this negative feeling. You may be sad, whatever. But it started with a thought. Somebody does something right by you. Somebody makes you excited. They do something good. There's a thought that takes place, and then the feeling is secondary. But because the feeling is secondary, the thought comes first. It's going to be based on how we process that thought is going to determine what type of feeling we have. So if I don't see my situation from the right perspective, if I don't see this person, people from the right perspective, if I don't think the highest thought, then my mind won't process it in the way that it needs to be processed. And if I don't process right, I don't perform right. So now my question for you is, what type of information has your mind been processing? What type of information, what type of thoughts has your mind been processing? Because whatever your mind is processing, a story will always be created from what your mind has processed. Whether it be a good story or a bad story. Because again, you have a person who sees the right things. You have a person who visualizes the right way. You have a person who is constantly putting themselves in an environment, right, where their perspective is getting a value add. You have a person that's constantly putting themselves around people where their perspective is always getting a value add, right? Tay Morgan came to my house today. We went to Topgolf. We hung out, myself, Cliff, Larry, and Tay here in Atlanta. And because we had that conversation, everybody got valuable perspective. Why? Because we're around different people. We're around positive people that can add value to our perspective. Then Tay came over to my house afterwards and boom, he was now put in another environment, hearing more information that can add a valuable lens to his perspective, right? And the things that we're going to go through in life, in this business. And that's why you got to be around the right people, because being around the right people gives you a value add to your perspective. Getting the right information gives you a value add to your perspective. Thinking the highest thought forces you to change your perspective. Having that attitude of gratitude forces you to change your perspective. I'm telling you, everything that you're going to go through in this business, trading, all of it is worth it. But you have to be in control over what you're seeing and the way in which you're seeing it from. You have to be in control of your perspective. You change your view and you will change your views. Change your view and you will change your views. Change your view and you will change your views. The way that you wake up is different. You wake up and you see the Mercedes-Benz Superdome. You wake up and you see one of the most packed highways in the US. You wake up in this floor-to-ceiling windows. Change your view. Listen, you get in your car and your steering wheel view is different. You don't look at what you used to look at. Now you see BMW. Now you see Mercedes. Now you see Bentley. Now you see Audi. But it doesn't happen until you change your view. Until you change your view that you see right now, it'll never change. Until you change your perspective, your situation, it'll never change. But you know why we have discontentment? You know why we aren't excited about where we want to be? You know why we don't feel right? It's because our perspective is off. Discontentment is the offspring of a bad perspective. Discontentment is the offspring of a bad perspective. So if I don't see my situation how I need to see my situation, then I'm always going to be discontent with my situation. If I don't see the market how I need to see the market, then I'm always going to be discontent with it because my perspective is off. So what we have to understand is that our perspective and how we see things is so important. You can have two people that grow up in the same exact house and experience the same exact things, but they have complete different situations. Why? Because one person had this perspective and the other person had this perspective. You can have two students that go to the same exact class every single day. One person gets all A's, one person gets all C's. Why? Because the perspective on what they do is different. One person may see this as this is my only way to change my family's life. One person may see this as, hey, I'm just here to go to class, make pretty decent grades so I can get on the field and play the game and I can go to the NFL. So how you view what you do will always determine how you do what you do. So if you're not doing what you need to do the right way, maybe it's because you don't see it how you need to see it. See, the reason why people like David does what he does, the reason why Alice Morton, they can do what they do is because they have the right perspective about what they're doing. They have the right viewpoint of what they're doing. And not only do they have the right viewpoint of what they're doing, they can see to the very end. So not only must you have the right viewpoint, you got to be able to see the end while you're going through whatever you're going through, whether your situation is good or bad. And so many people, the biggest crippler to tomorrow's success is today's success, because you think that you're doing good, but you're still not doing as good as you could be doing if you were going towards the vision, if you weren't comfortable in your situation. If you weren't thinking like, oh, well, I'm doing this in the markets, I'm making pretty good money, but you could be doing so much more. Well, I'm a platinum 1,000. I haven't deranked. I'm still making $1,000 a month. You could still be doing so much more. So having the right perspective not only allows me to see how to navigate through my situation, right? But it also allows me to see the end from where I am today. It allows me to see the future, the vision from where I am today. That's what perspective will do for you. That's what having the right viewpoint will do for you. So my question again is, what type of information is your mind processing from the perception that you currently have? Because if I don't have the right perspective, you know what else I won't do? I won't ask the right questions. If I don't have the right perspective, I won't ask the right questions. I'll ask life-taking questions versus asking life-giving questions. Those two questions are completely different. A life-taking question versus a life-giving question. This question that I'm going to ask, this question can give me life. But if I ask this life-taking question, this question can take life away from me, because I'm only asking this particular question to appease me in my situation that I may be in right now at this moment. See, that's the difference between a life-taking question and a life-giving question. When I have the right perspective, the way in which I ask my questions begins to change. I don't ask the questions from a broken perspective. I always ask my questions from a fixed perspective. So so me thinking that this is for my good versus me thinking this is for my bad is two completely different things. And if I think this situation is for my bad, then I'm going to ask questions as if this situation is for my bad. But if I think this situation is for my good, Jesus, then the question that I ask is going to be different, and the answer that I get is going to be different. And because my answer is now different, my action is now different. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? My perspective is so important. And if I don't see things from the viewpoint, from the lens in which I need to see things, then my body, I can't engage in the activity that I really need to be engaging in. I can't. Because I think that I'm not doing a good enough job, or I think that, this is not working for me. I think that, I'm not supposed to do this, or vice versa. I think that this is working for me. I think that this is working for my good. I think that people are joining my business every day. I think that, the trades are hitting in my favor. I don't think that if I place this trade, I'm going to miss it, because every time I place a trade from the signals chat, I miss the one that they take an L on, but I don't get into the positive. Has that happened to anybody? Every trade we get in, when we take a signal, it's an L, and then when we don't take the signals, it's a positive trade. Like, that happens to the best of us. But if we change our perspective, you know what we'll do? We'll just take every signal that come out. We won't even trip. We're like, all right, cool. That one was an L, but the chat went for over 1,700 pips. So if I take all the signals, if I don't look at like a bad thing, I still could have hit for 1,700 pips. Perspective. But you know what people do? Man, people get so focused on what they missed. People get so focused on what they lost that they never understand that there's overflow attached to everything that you lose. That's a perspective shift. That's a perspective shift. So many times we can be focused on what we lost, not understanding that there's overflow attached to what we lost. Because for every negative, there has to be a positive. So every seed of adversity brings about the seed of a greater good. So if I lost something, there's overflow attached. If I blew an account, there's overflow attached. Somebody left my business, there's overflow attached. I just deranked, there's overflow attached. There has to be overflow attached. After recession comes expansion. After loss comes a win. So there's overflow attached to everything that you're going through, everything that you're gonna go through. And guess what? That's why you gotta do. Think the highest thought. That's the highest thought right there. There's overflow attached to my loss. There's overflow attached to whatever you lost. There has to be overflow attached to it. Somebody drop overflow in the chat so everybody can see that, just in case you wasn't paying attention. There's overflow attached to everything that you lose. That's why you lost it. That's why you lost it, because there's overflow attached to it. You understand what I'm saying? So don't get so caught up in the things that you lost. Don't get so caught up in the things that you think you've missed out on, because overflow is still coming. But it only comes when you think the highest thought and you put yourself in a place of gratitude. That's the only time it comes. When you think the highest thought and you put yourself in a place of gratitude. Because remember, if I don't see better, I won't do better. Gratitude automatically makes me see better. You understand that? Do you know that you could be on a highway about to get in a car accident and, the person cuts you off, and you can either lash out at that person, or you can say, man, I'm so grateful that I didn't just wreck on I-75 with all these cars coming. And so you doing that automatically shifts your mentality, shifts your atonement from lashing out to now I'm grateful for my situation. So grateful is you just finding a positive in every single negative, because there is a positive in every single negative. Just like there's a negative in every single positive, it's always balanced. And that's why some of us haven't went chairman yet, because we want the front side of the blessing, but we don't understand that it's something that comes on the back side too, that you might not be ready for, that you think you're ready for right now, but you just might not be. Taxes, family, all that kind of stuff that you got to think about. But we only see the front side. We only see the beauty, but we don't see everything that comes along with $25,000 a month or $50,000 a month, or in David's case, $60,000 a day. Think about that. $60K a day. That's a perspective shift for you. There's people out here making $60K a day. What David said he was making every minute? Every minute. Like, that's a perspective shift. But watch this. It took him 14 years to get there. 73 cents a minute. David earns a second, 73 cents every second. So every second that's passing right now, my man's is earning 73 cents. You didn't think he had to shift his perspective when he couldn't pay $50 in child support? When he couldn't pay $50 in child support 14 years ago. Now he earns 73 cents a second. It's because he shifted his perspective. He recognized that where he wasn't who he was. Where you are is not who you are. But you just got to get yourself to a point where you can see it that way. That's it. Last week we talked about, can you see it? Today is about how do you see it? Like, what perspective do you see it from? Because remember, peace always follows my eyes. Please write it down. I said it like 3 times on previous calls, but maybe not everybody really internalized that. But peace will always follow your eyes. So the peace that I want to have in my business is going to follow my eyes, what I'm looking at and where I'm looking at it from. Peace follows my eyes. I had to subscribe to Forbes magazine. Why? Because I needed my eyes to see this every single day. So now every month, guess what? I get a new Forbes magazine. It wasn't good enough for me to look at it on the internet. I wanted the physical copy of Forbes. Why? Because peace follows your eyes. You become what you see on a repetitive basis. You become what you think about on a repetitive basis. Perspective drives performance. All of this has something to do with what you are seeing, whether it's in your mind or seeing in the physical world. Your peace will always follow your eyes. And some of us, the reason why we don't have peace is because we're looking at our current situation. We're looking at where we are right now. We're looking at what's happening in our organization right now. We're looking at, what the traders look doing right now, what my bank account looks like right now. And the reason why some of us on the line do have peace is because we're not looking at where we are right now. We're only looking towards the future. Me, in that case, I'm looking at Forbes every day. I'm looking at my goals every single day. Why? Because peace will always follow my eyes. My life will always follow my eyes. Your life will always follow your eyes. What do you see and what viewpoint do you see it from? How do you see it? Because if I don't see it the right way, I'm going to get discontent. Because discontentment is an offspring of bad perspective. So I got to see it right. If I'm not feeling right, it's because I'm not seeing it right. Because every feeling is traceable to a thought. No matter the feeling, you have a thought right now, you have a feeling that comes across your body right now, you can trace it back to a thought that you've had. That's why the perspective has to be right, because if the perspective isn't right, family, the movie teller, the storyteller in my mind is going to start processing this thought from a negative perspective. A movie gets created. A storyline gets created, and the storyline sounds like either like this. It either sounds like, this is not for you. You've been doing this for a year. It still hasn't worked yet. Your back office going backwards. This person just left your business. You keep blowing trades. Like nobody's showing up to events. You might as well just hang it up. Yeah, they say give it, 18 months, 3 to 5 years. But bro, honestly, when have you committed to anything that long? You might as well just go and hang this up and just go back to what you were doing before you even started. That's the story that a lot of people hear, because watch this, quitting is not an event. Quitting is a process. Quitting is a process. Quitting is a process. Quitting is a process. The process starts from my perspective. And if I don't see it the right way, it starts processing a story, starts processing this thought. And now I start having these thoughts of quitting. Because that's what my perspective gave to my storyteller. And then I start analyzing, or I start thinking about this story, and then I stop performing. That's one person. But then you have the other person who has the right perspective. And then they process that perspective. And that storyteller starts throwing things in your mind that you can do it. You are a millionaire. I'm so happy and grateful now that I am a millionaire. I'm so happy and grateful now that I've created millionaires. That's the story that you start hearing. You start hearing your affirmations in your own mind. You start hearing your voice in your mind talk about how good you are. Why? Because your perspective is right. The people that you've been around, they've gave you a value add to your perspective, because sometimes you won't know how great you are until you get around other people that are great too. But if you only hang around people that are boring and people that are lame and people that don't got no goals, they can't tell you how good you are, because they don't even know what they're supposed to be looking for in a good person. Like, you keep hanging around lame. Listen, stop hanging around lames. Let's put that in the chat. Stop hanging around lames. Hang around people that add value to your perspective. Stop hanging around people who ain't going nowhere. Like, for real. Some of us, we get on these calls on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, but then we go to work and we hang around lames. We get on Facebook and we talk to lames. When the weekend comes, when there ain't no calls going on that much, guess what we do? We get right back around lames. And lames cannot add any value to our perspective. That's why you got to hang around your mentor. You got to hang around people that are on your level. And then you got to hang around people that you can pour into. That's the cycle. That's how it should work. You spend time with the person that has more than you, more awareness, more knowledge, more information, more skill set, more results. And then you hang around people that have equal as you. So now you guys can bounce around ideas. You can switch from perspective to perspective. You got one idea, that's one, but you hang around 9 other people that got 9 great ideas, that's 10 ideas that you guys have now. And then you take everything that you're learning and you go pour it into the people, right, that don't have as much as you, that's trying to come up, that need a mentor, that need a coach, that need somebody that they can do life with and do this business with. That's how your time should be spent. Don't spend it hanging around lames, people that don't add any value to your perspective, people that can't help you change your viewpoint in the way that you view things. Because remember, when you start seeing better, you will start doing better. But if I'm hanging around people in negative environments, not getting the right information and not having experiences, I'm only going to see the same things that I've been seeing. And if I only see the same things that I've been seeing, I'm going to get the same results. That's why I had to see something new. That's exactly why I had to see something new. I said, man, I've never had a Forbes magazine laying around. Let me start ordering Forbes magazines because I need to see something new. I need to start popping this thing open and imagining myself on the cover, imagining myself on the centerfold. You understand what I'm saying? I need to start flipping this thing over and saying, man, top 200 richest in the U.S. Listen, what they do, what's their perspective? How did they do it? You feel what I'm saying? But if I don't see better, I don't do better. And remember, the way in which I prospect, the way in which I process information is going to simply be based on my perspective. So if I can just get my perspective, right? If I can just change my mentality and shift my paradigm, then my storyteller, the way in which I process information, it'll change. And then the way that I perform will change. I'll just start doing what I see successful people do. I'll get my own Zoom link. I'll find me somebody to make flyers. So I don't got to wait on nobody to make my flyers so I can do my launch event. I'll start building a list. I'll go listen to Skills Camp again. I'll listen to the Chairman Blueprint. I'll listen to David audios. I'll listen to Justin Owens audios. Why? Because my perspective has changed. Now I can perform at a different level because I'm performing from a different perspective. I'll do the work. I'll show the plan 4 to 6 times a week. I start having people in my home 1 to 2 times a week. I start sacrificing who I am for the greater good. Why? Because I have the right perspective now. See, if you don't have that perspective, then you won't process right. If I don't process right, I don't perform right. If I don't perform right, I never get to the promise. Wow. Wow, remember, last week we talked about, can you see it, the goal, the thing that you wanted? Yeah, that's just AKA promise. So chairman, AKA promise. 7 figures, AKA promise. Millionaire, AKA promise. That's what it is. But if I don't have the right perspective, if I don't process it right, if I don't perform right, I can never get to the place where God wants to take me, to that place called promise. That's why I got to think the highest thought. That's why I got to have gratitude. And that's why I got to ask life-giving questions. Questions that make me think. When I get the answer, it's going to give me life, not just pacify me in my current situation. Not just try to make me feel good in my current situation, but allow me to shift. So if this situation ever happens again, I know how to process it now. I know how to think through it now. When's the last time that you've actually thought through your problem anyway? You know, most people don't think through their problems. They just react to their problems. But they don't think through their problems. They don't analyze the full ball game. And that's why their perspective is off, because they just don't think. That's why in the book, Science of Getting Rich, it talks about the hardest work for mankind to do is just think. We're so accustomed to just reacting to what we're going through and not responding to what we're going through. We're so focused on everything that's happening around us, we can't focus and have perspective on what is supposed to be happening on the inside of us. That's strong right there. See, when things are happening around you, it's because there's something happening on the inside of you. But so many of us get distracted by what we see happening on the outside. We can't see what's happening on the inside. And on the inside, guess what? That's why our perspective is being changed. That's when our mindset is being changed. That's when our vision is getting clarity when things break out around us. Because remember, every seed of adversity always brings about the seed of a greater good, not an equal good, a greater good. Greater. That's why we just got to stay focused on the things that we want and think the highest thought of every situation. And somebody could say, well, what if I get let down by thinking the highest thought? Try giving it your lowest thought and see what happens. Try giving it your lowest thought and see what happens. Or just think about, what if somebody thought the lowest about you? So think the highest thought with every person, every situation, everything that you're going through. The highest thought. Whatever the highest thought is, think the highest. Get up there. Because that's going to allow you to get into a place of gratitude. And when you get into a place of gratitude, you can start asking the right questions. You can ask positive questions. And these positive questions always unlock the door to more. They unlock the door to opportunity. That's what questions do. But when we don't have the right perspective, we don't ask the right questions. And when we don't ask the right questions, we don't get the right answers. And when we don't get the right answers, family, we can't take action how we need to take action. So understand, your perspective is everything. You want to change your view? You want to change what you see? Change the things that you see every single day. Change the things that you're looking at, because your life will always follow your eyes. You want to make a lot of money? You want money to start coming to you? Start putting the things around you that equate to money. Listen, put the things around you. If you don't have motivation, put the things around you that motivate you so your eyes can see it. That's what's going to motivate you, the thing that motivates you. So you got to figure out, what's the thing that motivates me so I can do the work that I need to do to become a millionaire in my family, or to become a six-figure earner in my family, to become a person that can just support, be a backbone to my family. Because everybody, just crazy how the numbers work, everybody not going to be a millionaire. Everybody not going to be a six-figure earner, but can you be that person that is a vessel for your family, light for your family, because you changed your perspective. You got the promise that was already given to you because you had the right perspective. You processed everything right. You performed right, and boom, here we are. So I'm super excited for every person on the line. As I say each and every single week, don't forget to send in your results for Mexico. I'm actually next Monday, I'm going to go over who are the top, 3 to 5 people who got the most points, because we going to Mexico. I got back from Mexico maybe 2-3 weeks ago, and I'm already ready to go back. So listen, December 10th through the 13th, it's going to be about 15 of us in Mexico. So make sure you're sending in your results. Convention, I think we're maybe, 19, 20 days away from convention. Make sure you got your convention ticket. Make sure you're making plans to watch it with people that are part of your organization. Don't watch it by yourself. Get around people that you need to be around, that add value to your perspective. And you send in results by emailing retirerichinvestmentgroup@gmail.com. retirerichinvestmentgroup@gmail.com. As you enroll customers and you hit new ranks, send that stuff in so that we can have visual proof of it. And we're going to take the top 3 people and then 3 random winners as well. So what you want to do is just get your name in the drawing. All right, you want to get your name in the drawing. So let's have an amazing week, family. I love you all, and I will see you at the bank. Good night. God bless you, your family, and your dreams, and your perspective.